welcome to today's program, Global Connections, as the World Affairs Council of Greater Houston hosts a conversation with Vishal Goradia, CEO of Vinmar Group. I am Sandia Bayou, Chief Development Officer here at the World Affairs Council of Greater Houston. It's our hope that you and your families are staying healthy and doing well. And I'm sure you will agree that now, indeed more than ever, it's critical to be informed and staying connected and know what is happening not only here in our city, but definitely around the world. And the World Affairs Council of Greater Houston brings foreign experts right to the comfort of your home. For the audience, please submit all your questions via Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. I will go ahead and keep an eye on those and make sure I'll bring in up to our guest. Vishal, are you there?
Hi, Sandia.
Welcome, good to have you.
Thank you for having me as well, and thanks to everyone for joining, if you're watching in.
Wonderful. It is my absolute pleasure and honor to host you today. Wanted to ask you first, how are you, your family, and team of Vinmar doing in the current environment?
Doing well, thanks, personally, and certainly it was an emotionally challenging year for everyone around the world, including our team. They had to adjust, industry had to adjust, business had to adjust to a completely new working dynamic while balancing home lives. You know, I think we all know that in 2019, if we heard dogs barking or maybe babies crying, it was a bit more annoying. And now it's the sound of what working from home, you know, is like for all of us. And we've had to adjust to that and be accommodative. And we've done what we can to make that as smooth as possible for our team, to protect their safety and maintain the company's productivity. And I think largely we've been successful in that. That's something I'm proud of.
That's really great news. You have had really interesting career path yourself. If you just allow me to highlight literally very, very few things you accomplished way beyond that. And for some of the participants, they simply might not know. So as I stated earlier, you are the CEO of the Vinmar Group. You're also a director of Goradia Capital and served on boards of Lion Copolymer Holdings, the Junior State of America Foundation, and Indrani Light Foundation. A little bit about Vinmar. It's a global marketing and distribution company that brings value to world's leading producers and users of plastics and chemicals through the supply of the best-in-class products and tailored business solutions. With over 40 years of experience success, Vinmar has grown into one of the world's largest plastics and chemicals marketing and distribution companies. The company has over 50 offices and in more than 35 countries, with sales excess of 110 countries. What a global network. That's quite a impressive number.
Thank you.
Yeah. Vishal, today's dialogue is, I think, very memorable for both of us. You earlier mentioned that this is actually your first interview as CEO. Congratulations.
Thank you again.
It's such a pleasure. Might you talk a little bit about the journey into the family business and kind of your path through the company?
Absolutely. So Vinmar is my family's business. It was founded by my uncle, Vijay Goradia, in 1978 in New York City. He came to the US from India with very little in resources and built the organization that I'm privileged to lead today. My father joined right out of undergrad. He attended the University of Oklahoma, where he studied chemical engineering. So this business is near and dear to all of our hearts. You know, it was never the plan that I was going to join the company. If you believe that or not, there was never any pressure. I was able to learn more about the company while in college, and my interest grew from there. So I joined right out of Georgetown University. At the outset, I had two requests. One was that at work, They were the bosses at home. They were family. And that separation was very important for me, very important for them, both to ensure that the company was run professionally and to ensure that our relationship as father and son or uncle and nephew remained healthy as well. The second was that they had to tell me if I was bad at it. And little did I know at the time, that was not something that they would have a problem doing, telling me where I needed to improve. But both of those ground rules served us well. I've won the lottery a few times in my life, being born to an amazing family, being born in the United States, having access to amazing educational opportunities and personal growth opportunities. And certainly having the right last name was a big part of where I am today. But working hard with those opportunities has also got me here. Taking advantage of the chances to demonstrate my abilities, taking advantage of the network that we have, both in the industry and outside, to learn from, and learning from our amazing team around the world. We've got a great group of people at Vinmar. They've been instrumental in my personal growth. They've been instrumental in the success of the organization. And it really is just a tremendous privilege to be in the position of leading them into our next phase.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that. A little bit turning to Vinmar, what would you say are the core businesses, perhaps, that I did not mention in introduction of Vinmar?
Well, you highlighted it. It's the marketing and distribution of plastics and chemicals. We very simply act as an intermediary between the global producers of plastics and chemicals and the global users of plastics and chemicals. The materials that we sell go into every aspect, really bottom of the pyramid stuff, every aspect of our daily lives: household goods, food packaging, electronics, automotive. If you can think of it, we're selling materials that are a part of that value chain. And that's a great position to be in, because these are things that we rely on for our day-to-day lives, and we get to be a part of making that global supply chain happen.
Absolutely. As you said, you realize, and you don't, when you look around, how many things just on your desk come from that industry, and never mind, in your home and once you leave the house too. How do you see the company perhaps evolving, in the next 5 years or so?
Sure. Well, we all have even more plastic goods than we thought, right? There's, if we look around, we're seeing sanitizer bottles that we never had before. We're seeing plastic polypropylene masks that we're all wearing, or hopefully wearing, due to the coronavirus pandemic. And so, it really is in every aspect. And how are we going to evolve in the next, 5 to 10 years? We're going to continue our strategy of expanding into distribution, getting closer to our customers, making sure that we're able to provide the value-added services that they expect and that our customers need in order to be able to run their businesses, as well as servicing the needs of our suppliers who may have new product lines that they wish to expand their revenue into. They may require technical service. They may need supply chain solutions in order to access global markets. My transition into CEO is really one of continuity rather than transformation. We've got a great franchise, a great, if I may say so, reputation, and we hope to build on that, continue laying that foundation and building on top of it well into the future. And we're fortunate that we have shareholders who care about our business, that have an appetite to reinvest, that care about our team, and let us deploy the resources that we need to do what we do as well as we can.
That's wonderful. And you said it starts with the leadership. For anybody to have the confidence, obviously you and the team signals that globally. We know that 2020 was one of the most challenging years globally in so many aspects. We know that many industries got did better than projected in 2019 and others not so well. How would you say the lower oil and gas prices influence the chemicals and plastics industry?
As an industry as a whole, simplistically, the crude to gas ratio determines relative competitiveness of the global installed capacity. The biggest disruption from the decline in prices has been to integrated refining complexes. Lower transportation fuel demand, lower jet fuel demand has led to lower refinery operating rates, which has reduced some of the chemical co-products that they produce in those integrated facilities. So that means that even though if you just look at the numbers on plastics and chemicals, we're technically oversupplied globally in terms of installed capacity, effective capacity has not been in excess of demand. In fact, demand has been pretty robust throughout 2020 for a lot of the reasons that we talked about, right? Like changing consumer patterns, more grocery store shopping means more consumption of flexible plastic goods. More e-commerce means more plastics packaging. All of that has flowed through into the demand profile and has led to a fairly robust year for the petrochemical industry as a whole. Second half in particular as compared to the first half.
Very, very true. What would you say that what parts of the world kind of are currently perhaps biggest focus for you and Vinmar, if there is such part of the world or that really stands out?
Well, the petrochemical industry really is a global industry, and Vinmar is a global business. So we don't have the luxury of ignoring any part of the world. We have growth initiatives in every major market that are either in place or about to get kicked off. We do have a particular focus as Vinmar on growing our distribution activities in the US and Europe, where we have a relatively smaller position than some of our competitors. And as well, emerging markets like China, which, you know, is China an emerging market? It seems like it's emerged to me, but where we have a relatively stronger presence, but where the natural growth rate is higher, and therefore the future opportunity is also higher.
Sure. And it kind of led into kind of my next question as I was going to ask you what parts of the world you see most likely, you know, areas of growth in the next 10 years. And I think it's aligns which of the highlights what you're saying where the world is looking.
It's absolutely Asia. You think about the rising global middle class. That means more disposable income. People want more and better consumer goods, whether that's durables like appliances or cars or motorcycles are a big growth area in the emerging markets, and also non-durables. So, you know, personal care, cleaning products, packaged meat, all of these are really tangible parts of the rising global middle class and big drivers of that differential growth rate in Asia. So Asia has been and will continue to be the driver of global growth in petrochemicals.
Yeah, and I think a few other industries addition as well. Yeah, thank you. That I mean, I'm sure you agree the industry has changed, just as many of them. They progress, they improve the technology, supply, demand, and all the good factors. What would you say that have been the biggest changes perhaps in the plastics as we look back in chemicals industry as in last 20 years about?
Sure. Well, I've only been in the industry for 12 years, but
Very cool.
luckily, you know, I do have some perspective on the trajectory that we've taken. And, you know, there's a few major drivers. One, and most relevant for the Houston area is the rise of shale gas. There's been over $100 billion in investment in U.S. petrochemical capacity entirely because of shale gas, particularly in the ethylene chain, which is the precursor to polyethylene, which is the largest plastic in terms of global demand and production. You know, prior to 2010, the prevailing wisdom was that the U.S. wasn't going to build any more petrochemical plants. That just shows how quickly the world can change. And, in 10 years, we've seen just a breathtaking wave of investment all along the U.S. Gulf and now in other parts of the U.S. as well. We also invested, Vinmar invested in support of this growth. We built a 500,000 square foot export packaging warehousing facility in the Baytown, Texas area. That started up in 2018 and has been an important addition to our toolbox, letting us add more value through the supply chain and control more parts of our own destiny. So in our small way, we have contributed to the investment as well. Second major driver in the last 20 years is the rise of China, both in terms of demand and production. China remains a net importer, will continue to be a net importer for the foreseeable future, but they have built a substantial amount of domestic production capacity as well across all products. That has been a really important dynamic. The third thing that I've seen is the critical importance of project scale. These projects are getting bigger and bigger. World scale today is double or triple what world scale was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. As production technology gets better and project execution gets better, the scale continues to increase. And regional diversity. So, the largest companies are in our industry, three of which we work with closely, ExxonMobil Chemical, LyondellBasell, Chevron Phillips Chemical, have globally diverse production locations. Mm-hmm. So that allows them to adapt to changing feedstock dynamics, that crude to gas ratio that I mentioned. It allows them to be closer to their customers, and closer to the consumption areas around the world. That, as we saw more trade tension, in the last 4 years than we'd seen in the previous 15, that globally diverse asset base has become, even more crucial to be a truly global player. And lastly, it's the increased importance of specialized materials. People think about the petrochemical industry as a commodity industry, and for a lot of the business that is true, but there's a growing and really accelerating in the last 10 years focus on specialty materials in the plastics and chemical space. We think about ExxonMobil's metallocene catalyst, polyethylene, as a key part of that specialty material trend. LyondellBasell acquiring the compounding assets of a company called Schulman. Compounding is a way to make highly specialized, tailored products. They operate that as a division of their business now. That's another signal of the importance of specialty materials. And so, our Houston-based companies are really demonstrating that material science leading to improved mechanical properties, better performance, perhaps more desirability on the part of the consumer. That's a feature of the industry that's here to stay.
Very true. And if we look even further in 20 years from now, as in what would be literally, we're just thinking out of the box here, what takeout would look like, what grocery shopping would look like. Again, the customer goods that we are so used to from the industry that you're part of. How do you see, the experience, what next 20 years might look like from individuals like you and I?
Sure. Well, sustainability is the single biggest dynamic that I think will be operative for the next 20 years. The industry has taken tangible, credible, and significant steps towards supporting that. The Alliance to End Plastic Waste is a great example. It was created by leading petrochemical companies and brand owners. They're working within industry and government to be an active part of the solution. Sustainability is being discussed at all levels of industry, from the board to the front lines. Our employees want to know that we're part of the solution, as an industry, and our consumers want to know that as well. But there's not going to be a silver bullet for sustainability. the problem of plastic waste going into landfills is totally distinct from the problem of ocean plastics. And in fact, the most near-term impactful solution to reducing ocean plastic waste is probably landfills. People don't like to hear that, but a safe and secure landfill is clearly superior to waste in the environment. We also need more and better recycling infrastructure in order to divert those streams from landfills. Plastics are valuable. They are recyclable, they're reusable. It's a waste to dump them in the ground and not get additional value out of them. And recycling is a way to do that. The other part of that is designing materials for recyclability. That's going to be more and more prevalent. It's already happening. But thinking about that product life cycle at the beginning rather than at the end, when you have to deal with it, what do you do with it? We as an industry are starting to put a lot of focus on asking that question at the beginning of the life cycle. Vinmar has also taken a foray into that sustainability dynamic through an investment in an India-based recycler. That's allowed us to develop some competency. We're going to do more in sustainability, absolutely. We're at 3 billion in revenue in 2020. We're a good-sized business, but compared to the companies that we service, our suppliers, we're relatively small. We're not going to be able to drive that conversation, but we do want to be a supportive part of it. And have active initiatives to look for ways that we can be helpful to that direction.
Absolutely. I think, like you said, sustainability, the environment and concerns, we keep hearing, don't want to bring in politics, but a lot of things have also changing, and some of the conversations have been really taking place in the last few months related to your point as well. What do you say kind of the realities and maybe future possibilities of more continuing the environmental, right, of more environmentally friendly or biodegradable plastics? Like I said, there's a lot of research, and so great to hear that you are starting at step one, not with a couple of years into that. So any kind of other thoughts on again, other environmentally friendly or more biodegradable plastics and futures in that?
Yeah, I think that plastics and chemicals are a key part of sustainability. Not to single any particular industry out, but let's compare plastic bottles to glass bottles. PET, which is the primary plastic used to make water bottles, it's highly recyclable. It's 7 to 10 times lighter per unit than glass. That weight savings leads to a reduced use of transportation fuel. The heavier something is, the more fuel you have to burn to move it from one place to the other. That generates carbon. Glass is also extremely energy intensive to produce. However, that's not the consumer perception, right? The perception is that glass is obviously, more sustainable than plastics, but I would have to disagree with that. The coronavirus pandemic, I think, made it clear how important plastics and chemicals are to keeping our global supply chain clean, to our medical professionals who rely on single-use plastic items, to lightweighting automobiles to reduce fuel consumption and make even EVs and electric vehicles more efficient. The lighter the vehicle, the less electricity or fuel you need to move it per mile. I go back to one simple fact that there's just not a good replacement. There's literally nothing else in any meaningful amount that's both flexible, transparent, and waterproof. That comes from plastics. Those blue surgical masks, right? Those are made from polypropylene non-woven fiber. When we think about environmental, we do focus in sustainability. We do focus a lot on industry, which is fair, but consumer behavior, individual behavior, is a key part of that also. Every mask that you see in a parking lot or on the side of the street or on a beach was put there by a person. That doesn't have to happen. If there's a better understanding among the consumers of the importance of handling these materials carefully and responsibly, that will be a meaningful part of the solution as well. So, then you think about bioplastics or renewable feedstock plastics. That's another part of the solution. And really, this is gets back to what I was saying, that there's no one silver bullet. It's going to require a number of solutions to come up to speed and come up to stream, simultaneously. One of our partners, New Light Technologies, based out of California, has developed a process for producing the bioplastics PHA and PHB. These are plastics molecules that are produced from bioorganisms that are biodegradable. They have great mechanical properties. It's something that I'm really optimistic about. Be a big part of the materials that we use in our daily lives. New Light's not the only one. There's a number of other companies that are making similar initiatives, and I think it'll absolutely be an important part of the industry over the next 20 years and beyond.
Absolutely. I know that you personally are involved in some foundations and things outside Vinmar. Before I move on to a little bit of an education conversation, anything about your role or corporation that perhaps you might want to highlight that we have not spoken about as of yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Indrani's Light Foundation, that's one that's near and dear to my heart. That's because it's run by my mother. So she asked me to be on the board of that organization. They focus on providing the skills for our social workers to handle the really emotional and challenging job of dealing with victims of abuse, gender-based violence, child abuse. That's my mother's personal cause and something that I'm pleased that I can be a part of. The Junior State of America Foundation is focused on education. It's the largest student-run nonprofit in the country. It has as its principles and nonpartisan, creating a nonpartisan space for civic engagement, civic debate. I think that focus of teaching the next generation that they're an active part of society, an active part of the political process, that's critical for the future of the American dream. I was a member of JSA. I participated in it in high school, and I'm fortunate to be a part of the organization today on the board.
That's great. And again, education is extremely important for World Affairs Council of Houston as well. As I said, this is what we do. We educate, right? We educate from middle school and on until our members and friends of the council are available and interested in, what we provide. And it's the global conversation. And we are here very active in the greater Houston area. We have we're active more than 50 schools and chapters, from Title I to private schools to homeschooled kids as well. And we're increasing that reach. I think we're about 18 school districts, which is, I think, quite an accomplishment in a greater Houston as well. And in preparation for this conversation, actually have reached out to some of the students that are part of the Student World Affairs Council programming that we do. And they had submitted some questions for me to ask you. So some of the next questions are going to come from some of the students that are part of the World Affairs Council network. Faith is asking, at what point in your life did you really know what you wanted to do with your career?
Well, first, Cynthia, let me say thank you to the World Affairs Council and to you for all your work on behalf of students and creating these educational opportunities. They really are invaluable. And I hope more and more people take you up on attending them and participating in them. And thanks to the students for asking questions. So to answer Faith's question, I guess I'll let you know when I know. It's the careers are not static. I'm thrilled to be doing what I'm doing today, and I hope to be doing it for well into the future. But I'm looking, as everyone is, for ways that I can innovate in my career, ways that I can make it my own, make it personally meaningful as well as meaningful for the business. As I said in my opening remarks, I didn't think I was going to go into business until partway through college. That's when I started learning more about it. That's when I got more interested in it. I do think that whether it's in college or around that age, the 18 to 22 age, that's a great time to start thinking about what's important to you, what you find personally interesting. Because if you don't find it personally interesting, look, we all have jobs that we may not enjoy. But if you don't have as an aspiration ending up somewhere that is personally engaging to you, it will be difficult to do it well. You'll find it draining. You'll find it difficult to find the energy for other things that you're passionate about, and that'll end up being a net loss to you. And the other thing I'd say is that the answer that you've determined when you first answer that for yourself doesn't need to be the final answer. As you learn more and really keep an eye out for what's available, you may come up with something else, and then don't be afraid to pivot. It's easier said than done, but it is absolutely possible with hard work and the right attitude.
Thank you. Alien asks us, what's the most important career risk you took and why?
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate to work for the family. The risk was exposing myself to scrutiny. Coming into the business, there will naturally be a question: who is this guy? Is he really capable? Is he really committed, or is he just collecting a paycheck? I was exposed to that scrutiny, very rightly so, by the organization, by our partners around the world, and really took that seriously and felt like it was a challenge that I had to rise to demonstrate my own abilities and my own self-confidence. And that's been one. The other is, working hard is a risk. And you may not think about it as a risk, but it's a risk because you can lose other things that are important to you if you're not able to strike that balance. So, in large parts of my career, 2020 has, of course, been different. I would travel 30 to 50% of my time. That meant that it was difficult to balance personal life, whether that's something as simple as finding time to exercise, difficult to balance other interests that I have, in learning about different types of businesses. So there is a risk that you get lost in what you're doing, and you lose sight of some other things that are important to you. Sure. But that's not so bad. In terms of risk, I think I've had it pretty easy.
Great. Don't mean saying on a kind of difficult part, but Joel was asking, what is the most difficult part perhaps of your daily job, or now as a CEO that you stepped in? And maybe difficult is not the right word, but it's like you said, it's a lot of responsibility, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the challenges is we have a global business. There's always a crisis somewhere. Staying on top of all the moving parts is a challenge, and it does require the right perspective. It requires, the right attitude. The market never takes it easy on you, and really the market isn't concerned with how you feel about it. It's going to do what it's going to do, and it's up to you to adapt. That's a constant challenge. That's a constant difficulty. And there's always risk in business. There's risk that you'll lose out to your competitors. There's risk that someone will do something better than you, or that you'll miss out on an opportunity, or you'll make a mistake. And being able to balance that pressure is an important part of succeeding in any business, but particularly in my role as CEO.
And Edmund wanted to know, if you were to give advice to your young self, let's say these are students of 11, 12-year-old, is there something you could advise yourself looking back, what you could have, should have, would have?
Read as much as you can. Even if you develop at a young age a love for reading, that pays dividends throughout your life. And it doesn't have to be difficult stuff at a young age. It can be the young adult novels. It can be Wikipedia. It can be the newspaper. But really cultivate that love for reading. That's going to serve you very well as you continue to grow. It'll serve you well in your academic career, and it'll put you in a position to have a better understanding of the world around you. It's a complicated world out there, but you don't have to figure it all out on your own. There's a lot of people that have taken the time to write down their thoughts and their ideas, and that can really accelerate your understanding of what's going on around you.
Do you have a chance to read? Do you still have time to read?
I do. You have to make time to read, right?
Yes.
That's one of the reading the news is part of my job. Knowing what's going on around the world absolutely is a requirement. But I do make time to read recreationally as well. That's something that I've always enjoyed and hope to continue to be able to do.
And are you drawn to a specific? Are you fiction, nonfiction? What ticks your box on reading and gets your attention?
I think a good mix is important. So I like to swap back and forth between fiction and nonfiction. A nonfiction book that I'm reading right now is A Bend in the River by V.S. Naipaul, which is one of the classics and is quite captivating. Wonderful.
I think we've slowly come to the end of the discussion. Anything else for any closing remarks that you perhaps would like to bring up, or for our audience to share with?
Well, thanks again for the opportunity, Sandia. It's a pleasure to speak with you. This format, of course, is becoming more and more comfortable to us, but is still relatively new in the big scheme of things. But it allowed us to get together today. It allowed us to have the folks listening in, and so I'm grateful for the chance.
Likewise. Again, Vishal, congratulations on your post. I'm confident you'll be in great place. Vinmar has great years ahead. So again, congratulations, all the best, stay engaged. And again, thank you for your time today. Thank you for our participants. We will have this recording in our YouTube channel. So if you missed something, not to worry. Again, it goes on the YouTube channel. You can revisit at your leisure. Thank you all of you for being here. Wishing you a wonderful weekend. Stay healthy and all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.